I'm a cake artist, and one of my latest creations is this flower pot cake I made as part of a live tutorial showing beginners how to achieve an artistic looking cake like this one. But the road to making this cake had a few challenges I didn't anticipate, which I had to conquer. So if you'd like to see how I powered through my challenges and made this flower pot cake, stick around for more. First, the entire cake is carved from scrap cake I used in a previous demonstration, and to turn this into my latest creation, I started by trying to strip the current version of all the buttercream decorations present on the cake. This part requires simple tools like a sharp knife dipped in hot water to make the process easier. The carving of the cake almost begins when the cake starts to show through the buttercream, and after meticulously taking away the buttercream and carving the cake out, our sketchy pot is ready, but not quite. Carved upside down, the cake is flipped over, ready to be coated with ganache. But before that, in my hand is a terracotta flower pot, which is the inspiration for this cake. Next is a coating of ganache, but whilst at it, let's talk inspiration versus representing an actual item in cake form. There are scenarios in cake artistry where an item could be represented realistically. However, for beginners, a good tip is to consider representing your item close enough but leaving room for interpretation. This is because it takes a high and fine level of skill to represent items realistically in cake form, which as a beginner could be difficult to achieve. You'll see how this tip influences my decorating outcomes through the process, but after applying ganache to the cake is left to chill before the more challenging part begins. Challenging part comes with the use of fondant, which I know isn't everybody's cup of tea, but as a cake decorator, I have to choose my battles, and for this cake, fondant is a friend and not a foe. My relationship with fondant though is quite toxic, which makes me think if fondant was a person in real life, we would be frenemies. And talking about frenemies, the excitement of using fondant has quickly soured with my fondant cracking terribly. There are a few reasons for this, but with no time to get into the whys whilst completing this tutorial live, I had to pivot to adapting the original cake I had in mind by making the fondant tears part of the cake design. And for that, the crack is pressed into place, leaving some dents and marks, and with a foil in hand, more marks are pressed all over the pot to create texture. With our flower pot cake now textured, I've gone from a polished terracotta pot to a weathered clay pot with a texture strip of fondant added to create a lip. For highlights and dimensions, some luster dust and dark food coloring is painted on the surface, and our cake is beginning to take shape. For the flowers, I wanted something simple to enhance the theme of the pot whilst making the pot the main attraction. For this tutorial, I settled for artificial flowers placed into the cake through a straw dowel serving as a posy pick. The soil is made from mixed berries, Oreo cookies and digestive biscuits mixed together and added onto the cake. And with our cake nearly done, it's quite surprising to think this wasn't the cake I was initially aiming for. But what do you think?